Welcome back to Get the Check.
I'm Maya.
I'm Annika, and today we're talking to Daniel Lim. He's one of the co-founders of Gentrace, which is an LLM evaluation tool. They already have customers like Webflow and Quizlet. Before Gentrace, Daniel also did product at Dropbox and Uber, and he's also an investor in a lot of companies, including Linear, where he did their pre-seed. And I originally met Daniel about a year ago, and it's so cool to see how much Gentrace has grown since then, and they recently raised a Series A as well.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming. We wanted to just start by talking about what the journey was like founding Gentrace.
Gentrace is actually the result of a pivot. We have the same entity, the same cap table. Nothing really changed. Obviously, we added more people, but it's a pivot where the company before was a completely unrelated company. It was, long story short, video communications for developers.
How did you know at what point to say we want to pivot the product? Because my understanding is like the team was a little bit built out, and so it wasn't like an easy call to make.
Shutting down Pesto was the name of the company, originally called Pragly, terrible name. Pesto was already 12 people. It was one of the hardest career decisions to have to let go and lay off the team. We were objective about Pesto being that you look at the data, take the emotions out, you see a lot of users, but only less than 3% were paying. The decision to actually make a move was less than a week.
Wow.
And they've been working on this for 3 years, so it's painful for them, but they could make a decision like that in a week because the opportunity cost is too high to not do other things and build other problems to solve.
How do you transition from something like Pesto to Gentrace? How do you come up with an idea like that? And where was like that light bulb?
Our board member, Manu Kumar, he called us a Phoenix company because we are literally a different company from what he invested in originally. We gave ourselves 3 months to figure out what we wanted to do next. It wasn't even jumping to the fact that we were going to build, even though I knew I was going to stay around. We would be doing a disservice if we didn't actually do some soul searching ourselves to figure out what we want to do next. When we decided after 3 months that this is a rare opportunity where we are still ready to go back at it. Around that time too, AI started blowing up. ChatGPT came out and we were so scared that this was another Web3. We were like, is this gonna end up being a hype cycle that happens in Silicon Valley every time? When we went back to first principles, we were looking back at our experience and seeing what's truly a founder market fit for us. And we realized, wait, if this is gonna be such a big wave and there's going to be a lot of competition happening at the application layer, maybe at the infrastructure layer, there could be something as well. There's already a lot of companies in this space, by the way. There's Scale, there's Weights and Biases, there's Databricks, there's even Datadog trying to move into this space. Do we really need another infrastructure play? We realized, yeah, you do. There's actually a lot of ways to compartmentalize that. Like suddenly companies coming out on helping fine tune models or like hosting, being a model hub, like Hugging Face came out. We saw all these explosions of these companies. And then at that time we were like, wait, no one's really doing like evaluation or testing that's akin to what happened with observability for like software engineering.
Yeah.
Is there something here or not? It also seemed too obvious. Like, how come no one's doing it yet? Very quickly after that, I think a couple competitors started coming out because they also realized they saw the same thing. But then I think we were like at least one of the first 3 or first 5 that came out in the space. And then we realized, okay, there's something here.
Yeah.
Once you start realizing that, it's like a snowball effect. It just goes faster and faster. And you really have to decide whether to go all in or leave now and do something else. And we decided to go all in.
Walk us through what exactly Gentrace does and what the customers were doing before Gentrace and after, and really what the problem you're solving there.
Yeah, so Gentrace is, in a nutshell, a evaluation platform that helps companies improve their AI output quality, safety, compliance, and many other factors. We really try to help encourage really good evaluations so that they can build even better and better AI products, which is something that doesn't exist today. Evaluation is essentially running a test suite, test cases against your AI product that to us is integrated through our SDK, that then the output gets evaluated by multiple kinds of evaluators, whether it's like LLM grader, heuristic, human annotation, and in the future we're building out agent type evaluations. This model of these three paradigms, running test cases against your AI product that then gets evaluated, is a very different workflow. That's a multi-dimensional spreadsheet essentially that you're running. That's not the same as just observability or monitoring that Datadog does, where you just see the output, whether in production or development, and then just say whether it's good or not.
Yeah, because like in a unit test case, there's like a right or wrong answer. But in the AI world, you have 3 different versions of evaluations.
Yes.
Whether it be AI evaluators or human evaluators.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And then there could be hopefully many more. And you want actually many. A lot of our customers have like 20 now.
Wow. Okay.
Running every time against one test iteration.
But then how do you kind of aggregate all of those different evaluations to give like a good score?
Yeah, that aggregation process is up to the customer. In our product, you could actually open up each single test run to see the individual test cases and their outputs to see how well they perform. And then you basically summarize all that into one data point, turn it into a graph if you want. It's an analytics platform where you get to visualize and see all these different output quality metrics and make your judgment call of whether it's good or not. So maybe the quality bar went up, but the safety bar went down. Maybe then after that, the safety bar went up, but the quality went down. As a product manager, it's your decision, it's your job to decide the trade-offs, what's good, which one to optimize and prioritize.
So in AI, there's more trade-offs between, efficiency, safety, quality.
Yes.
When you're evaluating the tool versus in normal software engineering, there's not all these trade-offs. It's more in the design or the design of the build when you're building the actual application.
Yeah, actually, it's a really good call out that you talked about unit tests, UI tests, integration tests. Those tests are actually binary. Does it pass or not? The issue with AI is that it's stochastic. So suddenly you have these explosions of edge cases and error rates, and you need to look at it probabilistically rather than binarily, if that's even a word. But like you basically add that as another list item of the number of tests that you run as a software engineer, and then you have to make a judgment call whether it's good enough to pass or not. And as you know, AIs, a lot of times there's a lot of errors and regressions these days. So the stakes are even higher to do it right.
The first principles that you have in software engineering testing don't really apply to the world of AI testing.
Yes.
So before Gentrace, how were people testing AI? And then after Gentrace, like how do you really change that mental model?
Yeah, there was really nothing besides what people call vibe checks, which is it's just a buzzword that people threw that references like people eyeballing and just looking at the output. I mean, you could do it as simple as like paste it in ChatGPT or Claude and then just see the output, whether it's good or not.
Yeah.
That's how everyone was doing it for the longest time. Very obviously, very quickly, everyone realized this is not possible at scale. When you have a lot of users making queries, making calls to LLMs, millions of them, how do you do that every single time? How do you vibe check it? It's like a 7-dimensional problem that you can't do on just a spreadsheet.
And what was it like getting to that first V0 of the product?
It was a huge milestone for the 3 of us, and we were only 3. We didn't have any employees. Vivek was working on weekends and late nights. Doug and I would fly in to see Vivek, and he's based in New York, so we would like work there for a week, in his apartment and never leave. Doug's parents would also host us at their home here in this area, as well as up north, and we would just hunker down. Sometimes no Wi-Fi, which we really need though, but like it just breaks, and then we just need to like just focus and stay and just hack away to produce the minimal viable product for these new customers.
We're very sympathetic to that. Our podcast room, like this room receives no Wi-Fi for some unknown reason. It's like the one place we need Wi-Fi.
Yeah, it's funny. And then you would deliver pizza, right? And, like just hunker in. It's an amazing experience though, because you get really close with the people in that box that you get stuck in.
Is there a customer where you would be able to walk through like what they were using before and then examples of how Gentrace might grade a certain component of their product?
Let's talk about Quizlet would be a good example. Quizlet they had the typical user journey of try to do things with vibe checks, or built an AI product and alpha beta tested with a couple of users, saw it was very, very good, realized they could scale this out, but they were very, very sensitive and particular about their users, especially in ed tech. You don't want to mess up with wrong data and like honestly piss off parents and all these different users. So the quality bar is really high. They're very sensitive about it. So they started off by vibe checking using their engineers to do it.
So what was the product here? Was it like, I know like back in my day when I used Quizlet, it was basically just like online flashcards.
Yeah.
I failed my math test because Quizlet hallucinated, not because of me. But so what was the product that they built out using AI? And then when you say they were using like vibe check, which is like more of an industry term, does that just mean like engineers are going through it themselves internally?
Yes.
Okay.
To answer the latter point first, yes, it's not their job. They are way too overpaid to do QAing and testing manually one by one. And it's not a good use of their time. So yeah, it's been them doing it one by one manually. To your former question, flashcard is one of them. It's on our testimonial, where they are trying to automate generation of flashcards in a very easy and rapid way for their users, their students. They also are starting to do a couple, I don't think I could talk too much about this, but like multimodal stuff using images to help generate images that for flashcards and other products, and then translate that back to text.
How do you find more inputs to give the grader versus what the model already has?
This is something that we are actively working on, and we get requested a lot, which is basically using existing test cases or existing test results from customers to reinforce itself. And we actually want to invest more in this and like build a workflow where you could reinforce that over and over.
Is this something that you would ever want to do real time? Like I imagine like you almost would want to A/B test maybe different parameters and see like, okay, your customer is more happy with this response versus this customer is not happy with this response. And you can kind of tweak and keep going. And Gentrace can be in the background giving you those insights along the way.
Aspirationally, yes. Today we do not do that. That is a really good question and a really hard problem to solve. Because then you get into the Statsig, Optimizely, or Launch Darkly world. Which is a fundamentally different product because they have feature flagging, feature gating, and like some like automated stage rollout. That's actually a really hard product to build. And unfortunately, we don't have the resources for that. But we do one day want to do that.
So right now, it's basically like, retroactively taking all the customers' inputs and outputs, and kind of first filtering through what are the good cases, what are the things that we want to achieve, and then making sure that you make that as your like baseline for your product.
Yeah, a lot of it is what you said right now.
How difficult is it to grade an LLM? Like with data labeling, I feel like most of it is like anyone could pretty much do it. And then there's like some data labeling where now I know there's certain companies that are like, we want PhDs in computer science to do data labeling in like this niche. So for your customers, is it important that like someone that understands the product is doing it, or can a lot of this, is it mostly just like you said, like someone outsourced completely?
It depends on the feature, but for the most part, it's what customers are building is not rocket science. They're like very, very value additive, cool features that didn't exist before, text generated stuff. I'm pretty excited about the moment when multimodal, not multi-model, but multimodal come like really has its bang, has its moment, like the way Agents does. And like, first of all, the form factor of that is crazy because you have to test for both images and text and how they go back with each other. And that increases our value prop. But then a lot of like images is not perfect today. And then coming off of text even makes it even more imperfect. So there's a bit more complexity on evaluating that as a human than just pure play text.
And you guys are already in this a little bit, right? With image generation?
Yes, customers like Webflow, and I think Quizlet is also doing a bit of this. Some of our other customers are doing it as well. A lot of e-commerce companies are heavily investing in this for like their product catalogs and product exposure.
So I almost see your product as also helping your customers staying up to date with the trends of AI as well, because it can be so hard to wrap your head around like the technical aspect of that trend and what you need, what that changes about the industry, what that changes about the way you develop, what that changes about the way you test. And at least Gentrace kind of solves for that by being on top of it themselves in your like evaluation framework and basically giving that mental model to the customer.
Yeah. Actually, it's true, and we could always do better. We're not perfect at it, because our ICPs are large, big customers that are paying high ACVs. They actually naturally they're not going to be as fast as other startups like Decagon or Sierra or like all these other Asian-based companies. So they are a bit slower, and they lean on us for guidance and advice on where the industry is going. And it actually strategically gives us a bit of a break because we have a bit more time to build out these products for them. Agents, for example, is a really good example, because how you evaluate agents is very, very difficult because there are multiple steps, each individually being very, very foundational in the process of building the best output for that customer. And each of those steps requires its own golden test suite. How do you do that if it's just with like a platform that's just only like one step focused,
like input output focused?
Input output focused, because each of these steps have their own pairs of
input outputs.
That's a really hard problem. We're solving a lot of that right now. And educating, to your point, customers about this looming problem, even though they're not actually facing it, is definitely an area, a value prop, and an area that we are more heavily investing in to make sure that they are prepared for that moment. And our customers appreciate when we share these insights, because everyone's still learning and figuring things out.
On that topic, how do you filter through the noise and kind of figure out what to prioritize?
Yeah, and it comes down to the ICP and defining that. That's probably one other big learning from us from the Pesto days and Stacksware days, where we realized it's so critical to be so ruthlessly focused on the right ICP, and it's so easy to get distracted out of that. Our ICPs are large businesses that have a lot of volume of a lot of AI output at scale, because they will benefit and value products like ours the most. You have to prioritize product around supporting features and solving problems that directly ties to these ICP accounts, because as a business, then they will end up paying you more for that product. Now there's a balance though. It's not always 100% perfect to just follow what your customers say, because they don't also know where the industry is going. They're leaning in on these other new startup players that are doing really well for the direction. So you got to do both. And by the way, I'm not the product guy at the company. It's Doug, who's the CEO, which is how it should be. He's the product decision maker. He sees everything the most. He's the most technically competent at the company to be able to make the right calls. In many ways, the function is like I feed all this data to him and then let him decide. I have my own opinions of what I'm seeing, but he ultimately makes the call. And he's the one having these customer discussions. We're both generally going into the offices of our customers all the time, like if not every week, like every other week, and just talking to them and getting their perspective. And that's how we prioritize what we should be focusing on.
So zooming out a little bit more, you talked a little bit at the beginning about, breakout competitors in the space, but really being more of a category definer in what I see of Gentrace. What would you say now are your biggest competitors and the kind of waves you're fighting? Yeah,
so you could bucket this into many different ways, but the way I like to see it is that there's traditionally been one area of company that have tried to take on more traditional foundation model builders, companies who are building models in-house, and they are often called ML ops tools. So the folks that have existed in that space are like, there's True Era or True Lens that was bought by Snowflake. There's also Arise, there's Galileo, Fiddler, and all these other solutions, even Weights and Biases. These folks are at the core more like training management solutions or evaluators for accuracy metrics for foundation model companies. And you can see on our website, most of them are like AV companies or Toyota AI or like even OpenAI or these type of customers.
Like they're trying to build the model itself, not the actual application or the feature.
Yeah, and they're helping support ML engineers building these models. Exactly. This was like the 2020, 2021 era where LLMs didn't explode yet.
Yeah.
These companies actually very obviously pivoted to our space to like focus more on evals, but at the core, they are more focused on these other solutions, but they also see the value in our space. You could call it like potential innovator's dilemma because they're focused on too many things, but they're moving into our space. Their foundation is more on ML type workflows like Jupyter notebooks or Python based type solutions, which is not exactly what software engineers are always doing or using. Then there's this new wave of startups like ours that are approaching this problem from a first principle standpoint, where we are truly a DevOps dev tool solution for software engineers. And those companies include ones like Langsmith, whom we do respect, and Langsmith is part of the LangChain ecosystem. And it's pretty apparent for companies like Langsmith that they're trying to build products around the LangChain ecosystem and milk that experience because it's a really good business model for them. But stops are at that point where they're focused on just testing the prompt, aka being a prompt ops tool. Whereas we're going in the direction of really trying to test the application as a whole, having many different parameters and input variables to make it much more holistic and robust for the enterprise. We also are going down the direction of trying to make our product much more collaborative and team-oriented, such as our experiments launch, where we are focused on helping you run eval jobs in our UI as opposed to in code, so that other people like product managers and other personas like marketers could also get involved, and engineers doesn't have to go back to code every time. That would help increase the number of iterations. So like these are key product differentiation solutions that we hope over time will be big enough of a differentiator.
I have a question on like the space in general. Your solution is for companies that really care about building their application and they just need a framework to evaluate it. There's also a set of companies that don't actually even want to build the application. And so then they probably don't want to deal with the evaluation. How do you guys think about that space?
Yeah, that's still pretty relevant to us, to be honest, because we would love to support the picks and shovels of those companies that are building the tools for those who don't want to play AI, who don't want to build the AI themselves. So basically, we're the picks and shovels of the picks and shovels.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
Those are definitely customer targets.
Okay.
Cool.
Decagon and Sierra are kind of like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could definitely be customers. We have had talks with these folks all the time, like all these different like agent-based service providers. But what's interesting is that their problems are so nuanced and so interesting and different because of what I mentioned before, like this multi-layered stepped approach that they right now a lot of them actually decide to build in-house because it's so custom. But we're actually pretty excited about moving into the space too, because I think it's a very different user workflow that we could build into our product. And ultimately our bet is still that they're not going to do a good job doing evals themselves because it's just they don't have time for that.
They don't have time because they want to focus on being the application layer and not the eval layer.
Yes.
That makes sense.
One fun fact just to share is that we've gotten customers, like I believe it was Fair, who said that they wanted the output of Decagon to be part of the Gentrace input variable, which is funny because it's like, so you want to evaluate Decagon as a customer yourself?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, shouldn't we just help Decagon evaluate? But what they want is putting everything in one place.
Like they're using Decagon and they want the outputs from Decagon that they're using to be put into Gentrace.
Yeah, to feed to us.
Which is just like you could directly work with Decagon.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's going to be more of that type of dialogue happening over time.
Do you think you'd still need to work with like Fair as well? Because even if you have like a GPT wrapper, let's say, you still need to evaluate that, even though OpenAI is like doing their own evaluations on their model.
Yes.
Because it's like more fine-tuned or there's something about it that's different. So even if you were directly working with Decagon, wouldn't you still have to work on Decagon's Fair product as well?
I get your point, and my opinion is yes. Because the reality is that like the theme is the more the better here. You can never not have enough evals. So you might as well do it on every layer of the stack. It's just really hard to approach them and compartmentalize and stitch it together. But you could never not have enough evals. You can always have more test cases, more touch points, more this and that. Yeah.
So one question I had about how customers put their data in is, do you see a future state where you're like more integrated directly with their data source, or do you think that it will probably continue as it is?
I believe, my opinion is that it will continue as it is to some degree because of the point that I made before of no runtime dependency. Because if we are already getting the data itself with the benefit of not being in the critical path of the production flow and not taking them down if we have an outage. I don't see more benefits of integrating and hooking up directly to their input sources. What's more of the hard problem is like what kinds of input data will be useful that we should consider and get them to send us more. A common example here is like a thumbs up or thumbs down information, because that's actually data that you could use to quantify.
Yeah.
What more of that can we do?
We also wanted to ask you about your role as COO. I know I'm also in operations, and a lot of times people will ask me like, what does the ops org do? So we wanted to ask you about that, and then what your relationship is like with everyone in the rest of the company.
This is not to be derogatory to myself, but I actually think of myself as a trash can for the company a lot of times. Like I do whatever it takes that our engineering team and my co-founders don't have time for. Based in the early days, the title doesn't mean anything. It's just do whatever it takes to get customers, get those conversations, and then get all these other miscellaneous things out of the way that you don't see, like making sure we do taxes right, accounting, booking, like getting the lunches in place, like Ubering the right place, all these different random things to just do hustle and get stuff going. And then eventually, naturally, I can't do everything. I'd rather focus on doing podcasts like these or thinking big picture about how to get more customers. I don't have time to do the things like logistical management of what dinner venue to choose for our customers' dinners that we're running real soon here, or the event that we have hosted on February 6th. I don't have time to think about all the different little pieces of food and doorman and all that. So you build a team. And so we have a community manager to help out with that. I've always thought about, do we need a chief of staff at some point to help with more things? We also, now we do have to go to market leads or AEs that helps me with a lot of sales stuff, follow up, sales deck, preparation. And we're all honestly just doing anything that fundamentally supports selling what the engineers have built, right? Because we're still a tech company and the engineers are at the forefront and the most important asset of our business. Yeah. We're a tech company, so if we don't have whatever they built, we need to empower them. So that's how I think about the hierarchy, honestly. You're
basically just freeing up, like you're trying to take up anything that frees up their time to code more and be more efficient at their job.
100%. Like it always, it comes down to like engineers first. Yeah. We're at the service of them in many ways. That's how I think about it.
And then in your perspective, like since you feel like you're the trash can, how does that perspective on the company really create an impact?
The number one biggest thing that kills companies, in my opinion, is not executing well. And the number one thing that doesn't execute well is distraction. That takes your time away from the focus required to do the right things to execute well. And distraction kills you. There's too many, the world is going to throw you with your own agenda of what they want to do. You're going to get a lot of vendor emails at a certain point. I still do. And you're getting a lot of spam. You're going to get invited to dinners and go to events and all these things. And that doesn't matter. Besides like just getting the product right, making your customers happy, and driving revenue. Actually, the only three things that matter to running a company and executing well is hiring great talent to build the best product that then you could drive revenue, right? Those are the only three things. Everything else is noise. So my philosophy around being the trash can and like just supporting them lines up well with that. It helps me really focus on the right things and just start saying no to many other things.
Has your strategy around distractions always been the same, or has it changed? I imagine that as Gentrace grows, the amount of distracting opportunities only increases.
Yes. Yeah, it's changed in the sense that I've always felt I've principally had this, but I was terrible at that in the past, and I only got better and better. That's the point of like third time founder for my co-founders is all about efficiency, which you could only get better at because every second counts. This definitely by far feels like the quote unquote more successful company that we've worked on, and there's definitely more and more distraction that we've never faced before. So it's really a test, like a huge battle test for us to see how well we could stay resilient to our core and the backbone that we have of being ruthless and focused on the right things.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We are glad that we got a yes among all the no's. But I also wanted to briefly ask you, I know you did a lot of investing prior to this role and prior to founding. Do you feel like that has influenced the way you look at founding at all? Or do you see those, or even like fundraising, or do you see those as disconnected?
Oh, yeah, it's pretty related and it's pretty interconnected. By the way, I'm not like a professional, like full-time investor. It's really, I don't even think of myself as an investor. It's like really just for fun on the side. I think of myself as a builder, and investing is just a fun thing on the side that actually adds value back into what I'm doing today. Investing in a nutshell for me is really just throwing money at whatever spare cash I have to friends who I know that's smart, and not looking back at whatever return it is. I'm not obviously the return is nice, but I'm not necessarily looking for just that. There's other value to it, which is building a connection with that founder and learning from them, potentially selling to them too if they're building an AI, which everyone is these days. Also like building this like cohort of people that is in your circle that helps with sales and like creates this halo around Gentrace, and it's just value additive that way, and like people talk to each other. Also, you know, investors always talk to each other too, so they're all connected. They're like,
it's all a community that you're building.
Yeah, and it's like the tightest way to build a community. Than if you just only connected them on LinkedIn, right? You know, it's just another layer of a relationship. But at the end of the day, honestly, it's more just when I hear my friend from school or from Uber. That's how I knew Thomas at Linear. He was we were working together on the same team.
Oh wow!
When he started a company, I didn't think twice. I was like, please just let me
take my money.
Yeah, and then I'm not gonna do anything else. I'm not gonna influence the company. I have no impact on Linear. I'm just really lucky. Same with all these other companies like Kindred or and they're all really amazing founders. And if I were to say one thing, they have definitely taught me how to be more resilient and efficient and all these things just by looking at them on the outside and how successful they are. Because they're by far more successful than me right now.
Awesome. Well, that wraps up our interview. Thank you so much for coming. And I know the day this is coming out, if anyone is listening in the morning, you guys have an event that people can request to attend. That's I just found it on Luma. But you guys host a lot of events and are pretty active in the city. So if anyone is looking for an LLM evaluation tool, highly recommend.
Gentrace, yeah.
Yeah, and we're always hiring, looking for top engineers and opening other roles real soon here. But we plan to be 20 over the next year and really excited about what we're doing. Please join us.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.